You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
How are you doing, Ross?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Countdown to the holidays. Ready for Thanksgiving next week?
I'm excited for it. I really am.
It's one of my favorites. I like Thanksgiving more than Christmas.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because you always got a lump of coal. But
just less pressure, too, you know? You just got to hang out. All you need to do, hang out, eat some great food, drink some drinks, and watch the football. That's all you do.
It is great. You know, there was a period of time, too. I don't know if they still do it. I'm a big James Bond fan. Yeah. And there was a network called, I think it was Spike TV. I don't know what it is now.
Yeah, I remember Spike.
Do you remember Spike?
Yeah.
They used to do James Bond marathons over the Thanksgiving holiday, and I just love that. So everybody in my house would be watching football, but I always had one other television on, the James Bond marathon. And
nice.
That just made me feel warm and fuzzy.
You and our James Bond would be Roger Moore. Is he your favorite, though, or do you still think? I think Sean Connery's probably the best, but Roger Moore was my James Bond as a kid.
Yeah, he was mine too when I was younger. But then Timothy Dalton was the guy when I kind of came into my own as a big James Bond fan. I was about 10. Timothy Dalton, because he was in 1987, Living Daylights.
Oh yeah.
I was 9, I think.
Dalton easily the best chin divot of all the 007s.
He does have a good chin divot.
You could cue a golf ball off that thing.
Yeah,
probably,
you could.
Right?
Yeah,
hey, Tim,
he eats soup in it.
Tilted. 500 yards.
There you go. Thanks, Timmy D.
Hey, we got phone lines open if you want to hit us up on the rock lines. We do have several emails we got to go through, so we might have room, though, for a caller or two at 633-KILO or 800-727-KILO. We ask just don't use names of individuals or businesses. Let's start with the heaviest question of the bunch here today. And I didn't know anything about this story until we got this email. Then I, of course, did a Google on this and learned more about this horrific crime and where it is now. We go back to the case of Verel James Mangum out of Grand Junction.
Yeah.
He was then a 17-year-old kid, confessed to the murder of a woman and her child. Originally, they thought it was the woman's husband that did the crime. I think that's fairly common, right? Isn't the husband usually or boyfriend usually the number one suspect?
I think so.
Regardless, several weeks later, they deemed him innocent. They finally found this guy, this 17-year-old kid at the time, then admitted to the horrible crime. He got a life sentence. And now, due to some problems with the was it the confession and the arrest that leads to problems now? But he could get out of jail now.
Yeah. So what happened was after he was convicted, and this thing has been going through the court system since was it?
Oh, he's like
96 when it happened, but 2001.
Man, now it's been almost 20 years.
He's my age. No, he's my age. He's 43.
Wow. Okay.
He's my age, and he allegedly he did this when he was 17. He and I are the same age basically. Wow. So in 2001, it looks like he was finally, it was convicted in 2003, and so that was 6-7 years after the crime actually happened.
Man, that shows you exactly how slow the wheels of justice.
In his early 20s. Oh my gosh, that's just when things start then. And so he goes through, he gets this trial, he's convicted in 2003, and then he files a motion, which is not uncommon for people, especially when they're facing long sentences. First of all, the U.S. Supreme Court basically said that it's unconstitutional to have a life sentence without parole, I guess. I need to look into that. I'm not quite sure, but there's something that, because I don't follow a lot of criminal work right now, but his kind of whole court process had to be reevaluated. But the real reason it did is because he filed this motion for saying that his counsel, the lawyer that he had, his defense lawyer at the time, wasn't very effective, was constitutionally ineffective. And also then the appellate lawyer that he had after that, because he lost his appeal. He was convicted, faced life in prison, no chance of parole, appealed that, lost that appeal. Where he is right now is that over the year, and it's just been crawling through the system. Over the years, his case has finally been adjudicated, and ultimately his conviction was overturned. Wow. It was determined that he had ineffective assistance of counsel, and so they overturned his conviction. And that was in August of last year that an appellate court affirmed the conviction being overturned. And so he had essentially the district attorney's office in the area, his argument is they should have then put him on trial again. He needed to be retried for the original crimes, the murder. That didn't happen. And 3 days after the 6-month window for a speedy trial expired, he filed a motion to vacate everything.
Wow.
And the Colorado Court of Appeals granted that.
So on a technicality, he could be getting out.
Yeah, and that's up in front of the Colorado Supreme Court right now. So here's the issue. Does the Colorado Supreme Court affirm what the Colorado Court of Appeals decided, and that is his post-conviction finding that he had ineffective counsel, triggered the beginning of a 6-month window in which the district attorney had to prosecute him, had to bring him to trial? What the district attorney said is, well, that 6-month window for a speedy trial really doesn't kick in until he enters a plea. And so he needed to enter a new plea of not guilty, or guilty, but not guilty, presumably. And then the Court of Appeals, Colorado Court of Appeals, said, no, that's not how it works. It was 6 months from when, we basically said that his post-conviction decision was okay. So, I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts. It all has to do with the appellate process in Colorado. But the upshot is, if the Colorado Supreme Court affirms the decision of the Colorado Court of Appeals, he's likely going to walk out of prison.
Wow. Isn't that amazing to think, after confessing at 17 years old, that he did this horrible crime now?
But I think from what I understand is, very shortly after that, he claims that he really didn't actually do it. Maybe he felt either coerced into the conviction, to the confession, or he was trying to talk tough. Who knows? I mean, you may have a situation here where this man truly is innocent, and he spent his entire adult life to age 43 in prison for being kind of either clumsy in making a confession or being coerced into it. It could be that he committed these murders. So we just, I don't know. Yeah. I just know what's going on with the system here.
Well, our question for David, it's Law Frog on the Kilo Morning Show here today. That's the backstory of exactly how we got to this point here today. The question for David is, under Davis, which is the woman's last name, she and her little kid were killed. So the question is, can family members of the murdered victims seek compensation for mental distress against this guy? Is that a possibility?
You know what? It possibly, and it really kind of depends on who the relative is that we're talking about. Are we talking about a dependent? The way I read the Crime Victim Compensation Act is, and in a situation like this, a dependent, most likely basically a child, or somebody who depended on that person who was murdered, could theoretically file for reimbursement under the Crime Victim Compensation Act from a fund. You might hear it called Victims Comp, the Victims Compensation Fund. If it's just a non-dependent relative, there is a chance that the only thing they could be compensated for would be the medical or burial expenses of the victim. But there is a statutory framework that the dependent victim would have to follow in order to qualify to get compensated for mental health counseling. Now, that's a little different than just mental health, kind of like more of an amorphous pain and suffering type of thing. It would be the actual cost of getting counseling for mental health. So it's a little tricky whether they would even be able to qualify. I mean, we're talking about an old case where the statutory triggers might have been initiated 20 years ago, for example.
Well, also, what does the guy who's been in jail since he was 17 years old really have to offer? What are you going to take from that guy?
Okay, now that's a separate issue. I'm talking about where there might actually be money, which would be the Victims Comp Fund. A family member could theoretically always sue the perpetrator.
Would that be like wrongful death, much like Ron Goldman, who was not murdered by O.J. Simpson, but their family filed a suit against O.J. for wrongful death, and I think they won that for millions.
$30-some million, I think. Yeah. That's exactly right. And so you've got a couple of things at play here. One, the fact that he was convicted can't be used as evidence in a civil trial where you sue somebody for the mental anguish. The facts and circumstances that led to the conviction, you can still use those same facts to try to prove, again, that this person committed that particular crime. So it would require relitigating a case against this guy. And then it would require establishing, the extent of the mental anguish. But
well, the story is wild. I guarantee it's going to be a Dateline thing here before much longer. You'll see it on Friday Night Murder TV.
Oh yeah,
because it's pretty sensational, especially considering this guy could walk away.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
When my husband had a car accident last March, so it was March of a year, not this March, the March before, found out at the same time he had an unknown seizure disorder. He had a seizure. He was not ticketed for the accident. The police officer had his driver's license pulled, though, went through the whole process of getting a new license, the driving and the written test, all that stuff. And then they found out they were put on SR22. Any way he can get off the SR22, he's been on seizure medicine since the accident. What is it, SR22, first of all, Dave?
It's a rider. Basically what it is it's something that the state of Colorado would require in a situation where you've had your license suspended or revoked for a particular reason. Oftentimes it's, DUI related. And what it does is it provides a guarantee to the state that you will maintain auto insurance. So you pay another company, you could be your insurance company, some insurance companies offer it, or some brokers offer it, and you pay, and it could be, $25 a month extra that you pay for this particular rider, and then the person to whom you're paying that fee every month basically guarantees to the state of Colorado that you're keeping your insurance in effect, and then they'll give them updates. And if you let your actual core underlying insurance lapse, then the company that's overseeing the SR22 rider immediately informs the DMV of Colorado, and then they will probably pull your license at that point.
Okay.
So it's a way, because usually what happens is when you go to renew a license, you provide proof of insurance and they give you your renewed license.
Right.
That's the only time the DMV knows that you have effective insurance. And that's why, unfortunately, we have so many uninsured drivers out there, because you only need to prove it once when you get it or when you renew it. So it could be every 10 years for mature drivers. So, you have a lot of people who go around without insurance. Well, what the SR22 is it's a way of saying, okay, state of Colorado, Ross over here has insurance and it's continually in effect. It's constantly in effect. And in the minute that it's lapsed, we'll let you know. Because if my auto insurance lapses, state of Colorado isn't going to know until I go to get it renewed. They're not going to get a phone call saying, hey, David's insurance lapsed.
Okay.
But they will with you because you have the SR22 rider.
So it's basically, it's a tag. So if someone
it's a tag.
Someone jumps off, they let you know. Now, let's bring in Angel. She's the one who shot the question. How much does it cost extra, Angel, to have this SR22?
Just to cover his Jeep, it's $165 a month.
Whoa! So that's why you want to get rid of this thing. So it's not like $20 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's like 2 months pays for my entire 6 months of my Jeep insurance.
Is that a pretty new
I know,
Jeep?
for me to cover other two. No, it's 2014.
Okay, all right.
Wow.
And it does have full coverage on it, so.
It does, you said?
Yeah, because it cost us before, like $60 a month to cover that.
Okay.
And now it's up to like $165 because our insurance company would not accept a rider for an SR22.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, Angel. The 165 also includes your core coverage too, though, right? It's not just the rider.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense.
But still about $105 more a month.
100 though. Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. Obviously why you want to get rid of it. How long has he had this? How long have you been paying for the SR22?
Since last March.
Okay. So you're getting close.
He did talk to someone at DMV, and they said that after a year, he could call them back and they could release it. But
they might. Yeah.
When he called back, they're like, "We have no idea what you're talking about."
Yeah. Usually it's 3 years. You have to have it in effect for 3 years. I'm not aware of many instances where they would let it go before 3 years.
Okay.
Now you said March of 2022 this year, or March of 2021 last year?
21.
Okay.
So it's been a year. It'll be 2 years this March.
It's almost 2 years. So you had another year probably of dealing with that. Yeah.
And there's no petition to try to bail out of this thing early?
There might be. I don't know. I mean, I've never dealt with that. I do know this, that if you let it lapse, though, they start the window over again. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We haven't done that. We've always had car insurance, so it's like, this was just a shocker.
It is, and it's like a scarlet letter. I mean, you don't want to have, you've got the SR22 rider on your insurance policy. It's like for some people it indicates bad driving history. For you guys,
Right.
it's an innocent an underlying medical condition that wasn't diagnosed, and it's being treated now. But at the time, it created a little bit of a cascading effect that you don't want to have to deal with. It costs money. You're talking an extra $1,200 a year for this.
Right.
So almost $4,000 when all is said and done of extra insurance, just to prove that you. And the whole point is just to prove that you have insurance. You're paying almost $4,000 over the 3-year window. Just so the state of Colorado knows that you have insurance, and it stinks.
Only because he had a medical condition that he didn't even know about.
Yeah, because when I called for the SR-22 to get it stated, the person's like, when did he have his DUI? I was like, he's never had a DUI. And they're like, what? I said, it's a medical condition. They're like, we've never heard of that. So he lost his CDL and everything else in that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a nightmare.
I mean, there may be a petition process with the DMV.
Okay.
So when I say I don't know if one exists, it's not because I've never heard of it. It's because I don't practice in this area, Angel. So there may be a path. You apply to the DMV, for reinstatement of the CDL, reinstatement of all of these rights and privileges that he had before, and for a waiver of any additional SR-22 requirements. It would be worth looking at the DMV. It's like appeals process almost. Okay. And I suspect that there are lawyers I know that there are lawyers who help people with DMV appeals. You can find them online, and this may exactly fall right into the kind of work that they do, and it may be worth it. I mean, it's going to cost money to have that lawyer help you, but if it's less than whatever you have left to pay. Another year, 17 months, so another $1,700. It might be a lot more than that, frankly, to hire the lawyer. I don't know, but you have to weigh in with the benefit of getting that CDL back if he doesn't already have it back now.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Okay.
You have to wait, I think, 5 to 7 years to get that back, and you have to be seizure-free the whole time.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Was he employed as a professional driver?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Now, with this diagnosis, could you maybe start to see some kind of medical compensation for a disability? If you can't drive trucks anymore. Is that maybe an avenue? I'm just trying to find out where she goes, because it seems like the DMV could be a dead end.
Well, you've got a couple of possibilities there, and I don't know if you guys have any kind of disability insurance, a private policy, or something through the employer. Yeah. Or if... it may not qualify for Social Security disability. It may not be that debilitating of a condition. Maybe other things that you can do. I don't know. But you can certainly have somebody look into the circumstances of that.
Right. That might be another avenue to check down. No easy answers, though. That sucks.
Do you have disability insurance of any kind?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We have no insurance at all right now.
Okay. Except the auto insurance and the SR-22. We want that on the record for everybody to hear.
Yeah. They don't have health insurance because she's spending $105 extra a month.
Oh my gosh!
Just to cover this SR-22 thing, man. Angel, I'm sorry we couldn't give you an easy answer on this thing.
Oh, that's okay.
All right,
at least I know where to go now.
All right, yeah, good luck there on that one. But I didn't realize that she lost his CDL as well. So you think if it's his livelihood and it's a seizure, something he's like, hey, I hope I get seizures today.
No, I'm trying to think. There are maybe some other avenues as well. I'll tell you what, Angel.
Right. We got your info, Angel. We'll send you some other contact info with someone who might be able to get it more dialed in. But like I said, we learn this all the time. In law, there are no easy answers.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Who was a CDL instructor? And apparently having a seizure is one of those things that eliminates you from being able to possess your CDL after the fact. Even if it only happens once, I guess. It's part of the medical card you got to get yearly, and once that happens, no good, no bueno. That's not a very good end to that one. I wanted better stuff, David. What happened?
Well, you asked a lawyer.
Right, he tells the truth.
I mean, that's the...
Why don't you lie to me like a politician, Dave? Come on,
let me tell you something. I know, I could, but then you'd find out in 6 months that I was just full of it. Everything I said was wrong. And listen, I think that's one of the problems with the stuff that we deal with. Most of the time when you're on the radio, Ross, you are delivering hard rock joy to people. It's a heavy metal thunder of happiness. And then you have an hour with me, and it's just like, it's so somber. Because what happens is we're dealing with not fun legal issues. Like it's, I'd love for somebody to be in a situation where they won Powerball and they want to know how to make sure they can protect their their money.
I wish.
That would be great, wouldn't it? But instead of, unfortunately, we're dealing with people who've just had really crummy circumstances develop in their life. And then what we do in the law is just try to help people navigate. One area of the law is helping people navigate when things don't go well and when things turn upside down.
I didn't really
just trying to make the best of a bad situation sometimes.
Never thought of that angle with it, being a lawyer. You don't really have a lot of good stories coming into your office, do you? No one shows up.
Well, it depends.
Gee, Dave, it's been a great day, and I don't want to sue anyone, and I didn't get hurt. But you hear just tragic stories mostly, don't you?
Well, the kind of law that we practice, we deal with people, everyday people who are hurt and who've been injured, or people who've lost a loved one. So the kind of law that we deal with is the law of trying to help people pick up the pieces, trying to put their lives back together again, try to find compensation and right the wrongs committed on them by other people, by people who are negligent, by people who are reckless, careless. But there are some lawyers who wake up every day and they get to go and they get to draft contracts for superstars, for musicians, and for
recording contracts,
recording
movie contracts, stuff
right?
like that.
Exactly, actors and sports stars.
You do the dirty stuff. You do the heavy lifting.
Listen, and that's necessary. We need to have lawyers who do that. Absolutely. Their stories when they come home at night are different than the stories that I have when I come home at night, of the people that they impacted, the people that they helped, and the people that they got to share this community with. And so lawyers, we run the gamut from dealing with the world's wealthiest people and helping them protect their assets to dealing with people who've been convicted of murder and people who've committed these murders. And so the field of the law is so diverse, and it is so important that we have lawyers who are there to help people navigate this world. We are lucky in the United States to have the system of law that we have, and access to a civil jury system. We have a presumption of innocence in our criminal jury system. We have a very good set of laws. We just have to fight hard to protect them.
You maybe bring these sad and broken people show up, but then when you seek justice and get them justice, it kind of offsets the icky feeling to begin with, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, Angel, again, wish you the very best. Wish we could have gotten you a home run on that one. Let's get to the dudes not getting paid. It's funny. We got two stories. It's different people. One's from Summer and one's from citizen Odell, but almost identical. Odell says, I don't know what to do about my employer not wanting to pay wages. It's been over 30 days. What are some ways to get what my employer owes me without getting retaliation against me? Basically, you want to get paid or you want to have a job. But if you're not getting paid, why are you doing the job? And the other one is I had an employer who wrote me a fraud check. It bounced, and they didn't pay the next check either. I've been ignored since this happened 30 days ago. And noticed, what does it say? I've served a notice of dishonored instrument without pay. Wow, that sounds legal. Boom, boom. What else can they do? So two people in almost the same boat. What's the bailout, buddy?
We can drop the hammer on these employers. That's the thing. There's a word for this: wage theft.
No!
You've been the victim of wage theft, as your employer stolen your wages by not paying you for the righteous work you've done. It's a really serious thing. In fact, the laws are getting stiffer. And starting in January of 2023, things are going to get really difficult for employers who to withhold wages or who write bad checks to their employees. So in both of these callers' situations, they've got to put the employer on notice that they didn't get their money. And there's a formal process for it. It sounds like one of them's already done it. Instructions for doing this are fairly readily available online. But it may require hiring a lawyer who specializes in employee rights and benefits to go ahead and try to help push these claims forward. Because if the employer doesn't honor it within a certain period of time, their penalties become stiffer too.
Really?
And yes, yeah, exactly. And so, starting in January, you're looking at employers going to be owed 2 to 3 times. Employees are going to be owed 2 to 3 times the face amount of what they were originally owed, if the employer fails to pay what's owed, and if there's a finding that it was a willful withholding or failure to pay too. So, I mean, really what you're dealing with is, the Division of Labor Standards, the Division of Labor and Employments. So you've got file these claims to the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, and they will make a finding. You may need a lawyer to help you navigate some of this stuff, and you could theoretically do it on your own. It just depends on how hard you want to push, whether you think the employer is going to really try to take advantage of you. And I don't know these people. I don't know what employment situations that they have, what the employer might say was the reason that they wrote a bad check. I guess I don't know what your defense is to writing a bad check, other than you just didn't have the money in the account. But there may, the employer probably has a defense for why they didn't. I think in another situation, the person didn't even receive their wages. So maybe that was a different defense the employer might have on that. But Colorado takes a really strong stance on protecting employee rights when it comes to getting paid the wages that they're owed. And so, there are certain circumstances where we talk about this with landlords and with tenants. If you've got a problem with your landlord, you don't withhold the rent because you think the landlord needs to repair something. There's a formal process to go through before you just unilaterally decide to withhold money from your landlord. Well, the same thing is true with an employee and an employer. An employer can't withhold wages from an employee, for example, if they think that they're holding on to the firm computer, for example. There are going to be there are provisions in place that protect that too. So, yeah, it's they're doing the right thing, but stick with the Department of Labor, follow their framework for this, or get a lawyer to help you out with it.
Well, it's good to see that they're moving harder and harder against employees that do this, or employers rather that do this.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not immune to the criticisms that you'll hear from the employer class, if you will, people who own businesses, and you'll hear people griping, well, in Colorado they're making it harder for small businesses or for businesses with these new regulations. But keep in mind, what we're trying to do is just make sure that people who the employees are just getting paid the money that they're owed. I mean, these are basic things to just try to make sure
that's the thing. I want less government, so they can't tell me I have to pay my employees.
I know,
right?
and there's a little give and take, but sometimes these are just things that we just need to have. And if we want to have a working society, I mean, you hire somebody, you got to pay them.
I don't like laws that run against what I like to do.
I know. I understand
That's
it.
the thing. All right, guys, good luck with your pay. And I couldn't get a hold of Kevin on the phone, but we got a couple more minutes for our final question here today, involving babies, involving DNA, and involving love lost. It's a common theme here, huh? All right, so Kevin's email reads like this. So my ex and I supposedly have a child together. We lived in Wisconsin, and we split up. We both went back to Colorado. Upon arriving back to Colorado, I tried to reach out to her to get a DNA test so I can find out whether or not the child is mine. She blocked me from everything, refuses to allow me to reach out to her. Not sure what to do, because if the child is mine, this would be my first child, and I don't want my child being raised without me in his life. Only reason why I haven't really been able to try and do anything is because I'm afraid that her family is going to intervene, because her stepdad is an officer. Her mom and grandmother both worked 2 out jobs in Colorado for the state. So he's apparently an influential family, scared about them. What does he do? Can you force someone to prove it's your child or not?
Let's get more information. Kevin, help us out here. I know it's tricky. This is one of those situations that kind of runs counter to what you kind of normally hear, which is, I had a girlfriend, she got pregnant, I don't think the baby's mine, she wants me to pay child support. And how do I get a DNA test to prove that the baby's not mine? We got a situation here where Kevin's saying, hey, like, she's not talking to me. She's not demanding child support. She's keeping me from a baby that I think and hope is mine, and which is great. So a couple of things. One, Kevin, find out, did mom put a name of the father on the birth certificate?
Is that public record?
Good question. I don't know. You know what? I've never been asked that. I've always just gone to get birth certificates. Usually you can get it. You might have to state your relationship to the person you're trying to obtain the birth certificate from. At our office, oftentimes we'll pull birth certificates for some of our clients in really tricky situations, and we do it as their agent. It's easier for a law firm to do it. Really good question. I'm embarrassed. I don't know that. If you can just go into, the baby was born in Wisconsin.
You can dress up like a nurse and then sneak into the hospital.
Sneak in the back door, exactly, and rifle through the files. That's right. And
I'm
then
sure they're all
white it out.
Still.
Yeah, and change the date and then make that your identity and then go live in a creepy house in the forest.
So if she was pouting him for child support, would she be forced then to prove that it's his child? Is that where the legal line is?
No, because here's where it's going to happen. Because in a situation like that, what you have is already a court proceeding, which is going to dictate a lot of this. So it can be done. I think what he's going to need to do, Kevin, is going to file some paperwork. And again, a family law lawyer is the person to go to really get the direction on how to do this. I think it would be worth consulting with a family law lawyer, Kevin. Again, not the kind of law that I practice, but the family law lawyer can explain, even in an initial consultation, most likely what your path is going to look like to try to establish paternity here. And get a court to order a paternity test. If she won't voluntarily do it, you're going to need to get a court order where the court says, look, we'll do a DNA test, do a DNA test of mom, baby, and Kevin, and find out if Kevin is the father. And if Kevin's not the father, well, that's going to be the end of the situation. That Kevin has no right to be in baby's life. If Kevin is the father, then there's a whole host of other things that come into play here, to include providing support for the baby as well.
But then also getting access to that kid.
Absolutely.
Which is good. He wants to be part of the kid's life. That is needed, gentlemen.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.